Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, and this is the Eve Universe show's continued coverage of the CSM 16 with our interviews, this time with RonUSMC. How you doing, Ron?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Awesome. So before we begin, let me once again go over the rules. I have 50 minutes to talk with the candidate about anything that I want to dig into in order to help explore their candidacy and who they might be as a CSM in order to allow my viewers to make the best informed decisions as they possibly can. And then I give them 10-minute warning so that way we can make sure that we cover anything that we may have missed, or they can feel the opportunity to address any other issues. And then once we're satisfied, we finish it up, it gets wrapped up, sent over to YouTube, where it gets put on the playlist with all of the others for you to enjoy, to make an informed decision, because the most important thing is that you vote for your favorite candidates in the CSM 16 election. And in order to do that, you have to be informed. So let's begin. Ron, I of all of the candidates, you may be one of the ones that I probably needs the least amount of introduction. But just in case, we'll begin at the beginning. Like, who are you? Why do people know you?
I stream. Next.
There you go.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I've been playing for about 11 years on and off. I came over from Reddit when we formed Dreadit, and then a few months later we formed Test, and I've been in there ever since. And I sometimes I'll take 6 months off, and one time I took a year off, usually around work. And it was really edgy in the beginning, man. It was hard to stomach too long of it. So I would take breaks and pop in and pop out. And this time I haven't. Last break I took was like maybe 6 months here when I played Escape from Tarkov, and then my break before that was like, it was a few years ago. But yeah, I've been playing really steadily, for the past year and a half.
Right. And bringing the views, your Twitch partner, right?
Yeah,
Eve
man. Yeah.
partner, all the partners.
Yeah, brother.
And one of the big reasons why that is because you not only have a long history of streaming kind of the larger end content, but I know that you've been long respected within the Eve streaming community for being really good at explaining things, right? Like, some people like to give that credit to me, and if I am the guy that somebody goes to have something explained when it comes to like the lore or some like weird like thing in like the context of it, you're the one that they go to explain the details of a given conflict, or its like ramifications after the, like whatever your analysis and the little drawings that you make and all that stuff have kind of one of the things I think that propelled you into the status that you have today.
I agree, because it's very rare to have someone who like is an FC or understands fleet fights, or is even in the war, but is also showing the fights. Right, that's the unique part. Usually, like somebody's a camera, or maybe someone's new, or someone who doesn't know, but they're like, oh, hey, man, just, doing my thing, trying to get better, whatever. But I can see it, and I'm in the fights, and, have FC'd everything. So I can kind of draw around and show, how the fleets are moving around, and good positioning and bad positioning and that kind of thing.
Right. You're not just a camera streamer. You do FCs and you do all that kind of stuff. Which, I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
streamers of both kinds, but you are definitely on the side of the guys that make it happen, and then like do your commentary as a
Mm-hmm.
secondary thing.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the reasons why you've been very successful.
Yeah.
That being said, you will, by almost definition, or by whether or not you like it or not, be seen as a representative of your organization and your whole shtick, which, especially given how polarized everything is right now, it would be like, my concern would be that a fair chunk of the null block population, which should be your demographic, might not believe in you because you're test, and therefore they would see that you are, you would just be a test vote among the CSM or something like that, right? Like, especially among block votes, who gets, they see it as like, you won't be RonUSMC anymore. You'll just be one of the test delegates, and therefore in their eyes. So let's speak to that for a little bit. Why would somebody who's not in Pappy, but is in maybe actually even the enemy of Pappy, still be able to see you as a representative of them?
I think anyone who's heard me talk about the issues, if there's anything, it's I don't even favor nullsec over other areas. Like when I was thinking about running last year, my thing was, I would be the worst thing to happen for nullsec, right? Because I'll tell all the secrets. Because I don't really care about the team or me. I think the game is so much more important, and that's why I hate the meta, and I hate everything that comes around from not being a good sport, because it's just a game and it's fun. So one of my main things is really about when I was one of the first to speak up about defense fleets, right? And I was like, dude, we need to be nerfed, like, period. There has to be something to stop us from being able to do this, and but from the other side, I don't know if you've been keeping up with the times, but I mean, I've got to be one of the top 3 hated. I got to be. Like, I'm up there. There's a serious discontent with me because I'm, basically the only regular Pappy streamer. And when I'm streaming, there's 2 or 3 other people from the other team, and I get constant, daily hate from that, right? And so I think you're from the other team. You're either enlightened and you'll judge if I'm good for you or not, or you'll do what you're told and you won't.
Right. So, I was trying to be delicate.
It's all good, man.
You're right. There definitely is a lot of like targeted, for as many people that are your fans, there are definitely people who are open and active detractors. How are you going to break through that to get elected?
Oh, brother, I'm not going to be able to break through it, man. Like, that's just the simple truth. Like, people will hate, and the only thing you can do is just be nice to them, and that's it, man.
Right, but there's only 10 spots, and if we go to the cynical thing and the null blocks out there, are you like a test candidate, or are you one of the people that are trying to get the votes on your own?
Oh, you know what? I think I am a test candidate. I think I'm like number 2 or 3.
So you do have a strong backing, and that will help you. But obviously, if people are a fan of yours, then you could use all the help that you can get, because you also have a large amount of detractors, and you know that they are as well engaged. Would that be a fair assessment of the situation?
Say that again now.
So like, I'm not sure if I don't know if I can again.
It's all good, man.
But my point is that you have enough support that voting for you is a safe choice because you are a viable candidate. But at the same time, because you do have detractors, anyone who does feel that you should be elected should consider putting you higher up on their list, because, you might not get quite as much like horse trading as maybe another block candidate might. And so you might not be, this might be an issue of whether or not Tess gets 2 or 3 candidates or 1 or 2 candidates or whatever. But ultimately, you need more support. And
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally. Like, I would not anywhere near say I was a shoe in or something like that. No, I'm nowhere near. Right. I think
right.
I probably have like a 25%, maybe 25, 30% chance of winning, maybe.
And to that end, I think that most people that aren't like so far into the trenches that like it like kind of colors everything can agree. At least I, as a neutral part, third party out of most of this, can agree that your the information that you give, the goal, the especially when we aren't in the middle of like the biggest war in Eve history potentially. Uh, I have found your streams to not be propaganda, but just be absolutely some of the more informative streams. I remember like, during Stream Fleet events, like your entire session was just like, and now Ron's going to teach somebody something. And while everybody else is like trying to do PvP fleets, everybody's watching you. Like, more people are interested in what you have to say because of how awesome that is. And it wasn't just about like talking about how great Tess was. It was just about helping people understand the deeper levels of meaning that is in null null machinations, like the higher level of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. No, to be honest, Tess isn't that great. Like, I mean, it's a random group of guys that came from Reddit. It's like nothing, super special or anything.
Right.
It's like a computer club or something. It's like it's not, it's nothing like crazy unique or something.
Right. But at the same time, in order to engage in in this game, you have to be on a team.
Yep.
So
Yep.
so there's the player of the game who's forwarding your agenda in the game, but then there's the player of the game that is understanding the game that they're playing. If that makes sense. And I feel like you're one of those people, in spite of what some detractors may believe. I personally believe that you do a fair job of being that way, especially not during wartime.
Yeah. I would say that I'm much more fair than how I'm treated.
Right. And my concern would be that the current war, which again is the playing in the game, is affecting the play out of the game in this sense. Because as a good player of the game, you're going to be advancing your alliance's agenda. And as a streamer and content creator within your alliance, a fair chunk of that is going to be moral support, propaganda, communication. That's like that's it working, right? That's you playing the game. That's you doing your part to help your team win. But my concern and why I'm bringing this up and why I'm putting my weight behind this is that, like, I don't want that to detract from RonUSMC, the guy who would stream for hours explaining old battles, breaking it down to help people understand. Because here's the thing, I actually like to liken EVE Online to fighting games, because most people that play fighting games, like, you're just smashing buttons. But the people that do it competitively understand, like, there's a whole chess game above it that most people never even get to even understand, because they're just stuck on like the memorizing special moves thing. And EVE is the same way. We get so stuck on like the individual like the subcomponents of things, that often we don't see like the FC level of things in the more public space. And I think that you are one of the really good voices that help people see that chess game level of things, not the button mashing level of things.
Yeah, and I think that's about, I want them to appreciate it like I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
When I see the dots moving, and I see the little icons kind of dancing, and that, I really get a lot of, interesting things from that, and I enjoy that. But, at the same time, somebody will just want a meme, right? But I think that's because they don't understand, So I try to explain the details and the nuances of what's going on, But I want to. So I don't have a test agenda. I didn't get invited to that meeting, but I'll
Fair
be
enough.
honest with you. If somebody, I'm going to be honest. If somebody came to me and said, "Hey, from test said, hey, 1, 2, and 3," what? No, that I would almost be offended, to be honest, if somebody did that. I don't
Sure.
I don't give a shit like what what anyone says, man. The only people I care about are the actual players,
Absolutely. And I want to be clear. I would never.
No, I know. But I get it though.
Yeah, I don't
I
believe that
know
you're a
in
mouthpiece
CSM's
at all.
past there was like agendas that were found and whatnot. But Villy's never said anything. But also remember that we test has never had more than one candidate, right, in the CSM.
That's a really good point, actually. I don't think I've ever that it occurred to me. No, yeah, and I want to be clear. I wasn't suggesting, and I don't think that you are or were or would be a mouthpiece for somebody.
Oh no, it's all good, dude. No, I didn't. No, it's all good, man.
Quite the opposite.
But I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
But my point more is that you, as a good member of your organization, I mean, like, clearly your position. What I'm saying is, benefit of the doubt, the positions that you're expounding right now is the Pappy point of view, because that's your point of view. In a war,
for sure.
That's one side of the war, and that's just the way it is. And I don't feel that you should be ashamed or apologetic of that, because that's like, as you mentioned, like, you described yourself as a Pappy Twitch streamer, and so by definition, you are a rallying point for that community, and that's part of your job in this game. That's your role in this role-playing game at the moment. But that shouldn't necessarily, that isn't all you are as a streamer. And so I just wanted to bring that up, because some people may only know you from, because this war's gone on for a little while. We may have voters that have never seen you from like before before this war. But
and that's your point is interesting too, because that's one of the things that people like when Brisk and I talk, because there's so much from your point of view. It's not like I'm lying or, propaganda. It's like, this is what I saw, right? And when Brisk and I are talking, and Brisk, is normal, right? And he's like, yeah, this is what I saw. And we're both right, but we're both completely different, right? And that's, I think, so interesting about it.
All right. So you're a good streamer. You're popular. That's fine, and we've addressed those issues. But that's what you are. What you want to be is a CSM member. So, first of all, is this your first time running? What's your history with CSM?
Yeah, this is my first time.
Okay. So, with all that said, you've come all this way. What has caused you to decide to run this year?
A couple of things really, but I would say being sort of a popular Eve streamer, and sometimes I'm like in the top number of viewers, so it's like easiest to click on me. And over the past, year and a half or whatever, I've really just gotten so many new players, and I hear so many random problems.
That's true. Yeah, that's one thing that a lot
I've
of people
just been motivated. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Sorry, the comms got interrupted, so it sounded like you had stopped talking. But that is absolutely true, that as a streamer, you function as a liaison, and in particular to new players. So you do talk to a lot of new players there, and it's a touchstone. So you think that you want to transition your public face to being a good conduit for the CSM, and you've recognized that potential, and that's why you're running?
I would say, even if I lose, whatever, it gives me a chance to talk about, the issues that come up time and time again for new players, new-ish players, people that are in nullsec and just want to explore more and that kind of thing. And I would say that motivated me to think about it, and then reading through the CSM notes and seeing nullsec candidates say things that were completely against what's actually happening. And I saw that, and I'm like, you know what? I think I should run.
All right. So we talked about your detractors a little bit, but I kind of want to address a couple of these things, kind of give you an opportunity to bring them out in the open and address them head on. The two things that I often see levied is that you are onerous and quick to moderate or ban people that don't agree with you in your chats, and that I've even heard accusations that your break from Eve was based on a rage quit because of things that happened in game. If you want to be a CSM member, give me some confidence, give these people some confidence that you have the stick with itness to it, and that those are not valid fears. Hello?
Oh, sorry.
It's
I was I use Synergy, right, between two computers.
Yeah.
And when I go onto the other monitor, it doesn't register the keys over here. So, and I'm using push to talk.
That was just awesome timing.
yeah. Just disconnect, right?
People,
and you
people
just
in
get the
chat
dial
are like,
tone.
did he just leave the
So, I do this for fun, right? Like I do the streaming, and I do that and Eve and all that for fun. And on M2 Part 2, so anyone who knows me, I could care less about a Titan, right? I don't care. Like, people have seen me self-destruct billions upon billions upon billions of things. I don't care about the digital stuff, right? The experience of it sucked, right?
Right.
It sucked. It was a bad gaming experience. But neither one of those, is like worthy of a rage quit, right? I quit because of what was happening outside of the game, right? People went to ape shit like on the stream and just, calling me every name and weird racist shit and all this stuff. And, I'm banning people, etc. And they're creating new accounts, and like it's just, I was just thinking, man, like I just don't need this shit. Like,
Yeah.
It's not like I'm making a lot of money or something. I'm like, I make as much as like a waitress, right? Like, how many times will you get called a name, like as a waitress, and you're just like, fuck these people. Like, I just don't need that, So I ended the stream, and the next day I'm just like, man, I just don't even feel like dealing with it. So, the very next day actually was the day after that was my birthday, and my nephew was going to hang out with me, and I'm like, man, I don't want him seeing all this weird shit. So, one of the mods is like, hey man, why don't you play Star Citizen? I'm like, I love it. So January 5th, my birthday, I started playing Star Citizen for, I don't know, like 3 or 4 weeks or something. It was a lot of fun, man. I digged it.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, one thing I strongly believe in is that, like, as a content creator, as a community, tentpole, it is your responsibility to take those hard actions and protect the community, because, you know, I'm sure that the people that are in your stream because they want to enjoy your content, and more importantly, spend good time with each other. Because I find that that's an important part of Twitch streams, is that like you function as a gathering point for your community. And so if people are in there making that miserable in a way that is detrimental to the people who you're doing this for, then it could very well be argued that it is your responsibility to, you know, bring that down and set the rules for the community and to enforce them fairly. And to be quite frank, you know, the last half of your name, USMC, you're from the Marines. You know, I know how much you respect, you know, structure, and
Yes.
I think that that's a complete, like, I think that it's a completely respectful thing for a Twitch streamer to do. And that may just be my own bias from being a Twitch streamer myself. But, and I full disclosure, I have a totally different philosophy when it comes to how to moderate my own channel, as you can tell by what is happening in chat right now a lot. But overall, like, that doesn't make your philosophy wrong by any stretch of the imagination. I can't believe I forgot this, but you know, or maybe I didn't, but, you know, I like to disclose all of my previous relationships with somebody, and I guess it's just totally obvious that we have history together. So we'll move on from that. But but my concern at that point would be, if you are under that much fire, how are you going to navigate that moving on in the future? And how are you going to navigate that if you become part of the CSM and these guys get in their head that messing with you is a good way to push their agenda to CCP?
Well, I mean, I don't really mess with it that much, right? Like, what, you know, the things that I've done personally are, I have every major group, including Imperium moderators, in my channel, right? So, you know, a couple of the longtime mods are from the Imperium, and I don't question them or ask them. Like, I just tell them to do what's right, you know, not what's right for their group, but what's right. And after you've been in the channel for a while, you know, like we were talking about, like, popularity. And what I've found is that quickly moderating people, and, you know, I've been trying to, now I try to do like a 10-minute ban or whatever, 10-minute timeout, just to let them know that we don't call people names, you know, we don't talk about, you know, people like that. And it thins out the very voice, you know, the loud voices that are super negative and super trolly. And when you start to clean that out, the normal people actually get more involved, right? And, you know, people can talk about, like, oh, the moderation, this and that. But the more that I've moderated, and I probably have, I don't know, I've reset it all like 4 or 5 months ago, and now it's just people like on their second ban. And I found that, you know, the reports that you get, like how many unique users in chat and how many lines of chat, my engagement has gone way up. Like, from the beginning when I wasn't moderating to now, it's like, you know, 10 or 15 times what it was.
Right. So that makes sense, because when someone is being disruptive, it's often very few voices talking a lot, and that suppresses the wider discussion. And so if you remove that from the equation, then it's like the actual, you know, you get the drunk guy shouting out of the room, and then people can, like, get back to their meal and their, you know, discussions.
Yep, that's exactly right. And that sort of the meme, the kind of trying to harass me. Like some of it is it's all right, it's not a big deal. But if it gets personal or whatever, then it's disruptive. And it like my sort of demographic, kind of what I'm going for is, while someone's at work and I'm on another monitor, right? Like I'm not action packed all day because number one, I'd probably die of a heart attack, right? So it's like calm, kind of nullsec radio, every now and then you kind of flip over and you see, but it's not super, dramatic. And a lot of people kind of want to just start shit, and just start, and it's just like, man, no, that's not what we're here for, like.
Yeah. I feel like we've gone over all of this stuff enough at this point.
Okay.
So let's I have up here your different positions, and I think that those are also worth going into. And so, as it turns out, you're also a candidate. No, in that to that end, the thing that stands out immediately to me is this idea of a UX architect. Again, very good at teaching people, and I cited the fact that you use the visual aids and the pens and all that stuff. You not only know a lot about what people need to know about to understand and appreciate Eve, but also how UI and UX help, or that entire design space, which is relatively new, not very well understood or appreciated in a lot of the industry, but is incredibly important, especially in a multilingual game like this, in which we can't rest on our laurels that players will teach Eve. If the UI, if the UX isn't a learnable game, then they may not ever get to that point. So you being passionate about that I think is incredibly important. And I'll give you an opportunity to say to that how you feel the UX needs to be improved.
Yeah, I mean, I think the UX can always be improved on just about anything that's a few years old. But I think the sort of UX background has two ways that it's important in this, as like a professional user, you can think of it, or an expert user. The first way would be just on the UX alone, right? And you can talk about workflows and paths, and in some places they've deviated from patterns, but one of the kind of interesting things is because it is in the gaming space, they could take a lot more steps forward than like I could at Microsoft kind of
Right.
thing, right? Or at any of these others. You can kind of push it further, and I see a little bit of that, with some of the things that they've come out with, but and other things I see, it's a little older and needs a brush up. And I would say the second part is just, kind of levying for design changes, right? And gathering evidence and stating your case and being challenged, and, I'm, the kind of joke in UX is you're going to get yes 20% of the time. So make sure you know which 20% you want to get yes to, right? So it's all about, interviews and, exercises and, looking at the data to try to get something pushed through.
Right. So just in case somebody isn't aware, so UI means user interface. It's all of the buttons and bobs and stuff that informs you about what's going on in a game application or whatever. And then UX would be user experience, which is kind of a broader concept of the same thing, which is like how the UI and other things lead to actual experiences to help people like interface with the software or whatever it is that you're designing. That said, do you have any concrete examples or like a not trying to say like what is a thing that you're going to push or change, but like you just have an example of where you could bring your UI UX expertise to the table for EVE Online?
I mean, the obvious one, right, is going to be planetary interaction, right? But again, as the CSM, man, like you were, I would be there and, I would present the problem and give 4 or 5 kind of options, but does that mean it's going to get made, or does that mean
Right.
people are even going to pay attention? I have a lot of things that I can bring up, but it's up to them, right? Whatever they want to do.
Right, I understand that, but it's absolutely true that I'm not trying to say that you will get I'm not asking for a campaign promise to get PI overhauled.
Yeah, okay, all right.
But what I'm saying is that you are claiming that your UX expertise makes you uniquely capable, or gives you an advantage as a CSM member. So can you help me understand, or help the audience understand, how your UX expertise allows you to provide something to the table that can't be provided by somebody who's just really good at PI or knowledgeable about it?
Oh, okay. No, that's a good question. All right, I got that. So one of the things around, you can even talk about like the inventory. One of the things around that is the grouping of similar items and the ability to tailor the experience for yourself. So by making some educated guesses around the way somebody wants something, sorted, a direct thing would be, on the inventory, that being able to have it like a drop down instead of right clicking with the price ascending, price descending, but those are actually backwards, right? And then being able to sort things. So we already have, sort of like the folders, and you can use containers as folders. But what about a visual representation of something like that for the ships, right? And being able to sort ships, putting, like a line, in between, and having like doctrine ships, fun ships, PvP ships, and just being able to kind of browse through that instead of just the kind of typical grid,
right?
And then having the same sort functions. I think, for PI, you could, the simple answer would be that when you click an item and the 3D representative shows on top of it, you can't click it again. And then I would say that the next step up from that would be that the small windows that pop up are disconnected in the experience of building the PI itself. And if you wanted to really go all out with it, I would say that the entire PI thing should just probably be redone in a more thoughtful, more kind of building manner, instead of randomly kind of adjusting by pixel, on the planet's surface. There's a way that you could maybe join them and use sort of templates or something like that that could build things in a more fruitful manner, right?
Yeah, no, and that's a great answer. I kind of set you up for failure on that one, because it's like, hey, describe in words with no visuals a UI UX issue.
Don't worry, my hands were going crazy as I was talking. So, I was like drawing in the air.
Yeah, I want to indicate the handicap, and no, I think that's a really good example of how of exactly what I was asking, right? Where somebody who does PI a lot will be able to communicate, there's too many clicks, I don't like this, whatever, which is valuable feedback. You have the institutional understanding to know what is just common practices, what is uncommon, and more importantly, what we've learned in the UI UX field about how people react to certain things to avoid avoidable mistakes, which is, I think that arguably a lot of people would argue would be the point of the CSM, is to avoid avoidable mistakes by CCP.
Yeah. And that's one of the hardest things about UX, because and I talk to the devs, the UX devs, but they can't really talk back, right? They can't give me feedback because I haven't signed an NDA, right? And anything they say, they would have to assume would be, spread everywhere. So that'd be exciting, right? If I can sign an NDA with them and get some feedback and send some stuff either way, it'd be kind of fun.
That's a really good point, and a common question that I do ask, which is like, if you're already reconnected, if you already have a big like bullhorn, why take up the spot for the CSM? But in your case, you pointed out that like there's a lot of this that just is not capable without the NDA, and also being a professional in that field, you understand the importance of the NDA and both what it can unlock and also what it represents to have it be violated, which, given the fact that there have been, displays of violations of the NDA, and even beyond that, just concerns broadly about violations of the NDA by various people. Like, it's a very common refrain. People that are in the industry know that and appreciate how completely unacceptable that would be in practice.
Yeah, and the NDA is great because you're out of you just can't even be questioned, right? Like, so if I don't have it, don't even talk to me about anything that would violate that, right? Like, I don't want to even hear about it because I don't even want to be on the list, right, of people being questioned. Nope, don't even ask me, don't tell me anything.
Yeah, and I tell people that I'm like, if you don't want me to say it on a stream, you probably shouldn't tell me. I don't want it in my head, because I don't want to have to keep track what I can and can't say. But to that end, actually, it may be less of an issue for you than me, because I tend to be way more speculative. But it was brought up when I ran, and was one of the big reasons why I don't run, that being held under an NDA would mean that I no longer can speculate. I can no longer maybe not speak on certain issues because of the NDA. Are you at all concerned about the NDA's effect on you as a streamer?
No, I can hate meerkats and all that without an NDA.
All right, then. It's a fair argument. All right. Let me think if I had somewhere else to go with that.
Your chat is pretty exciting, man. Like, I was just checking it out a little bit. Whew, exciting.
Yeah. It's a pretty healthy debate, and it's a pretty good display as to why I chose not to put the Twitch chat in my, VODs. I can export it to YouTube.
I just noticed that, dude. You usually do, man. Yep. That's hilarious.
But for these,
that is hilarious.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, put the mask back on. Ganking needs a balance pass. You're not supposed to be exposing me, Ron.
Yeah, no, I just noticed it. Yeah.
So on the one hand, like, every hauler wants more solutions and thinks that ganking is overpowered, and yet at the same time, I feel like a lot of people that want a ganking overhaul don't fully appreciate the value of ganking within the overall design and ecosystem of EVE Online. So with that in mind, what does it mean to you that ganking needs a balance overpass or overhaul?
I think there's a couple of things. And if I just hit like a couple of items, I would say, alpha characters cannot take off their safety, period, right? So if they're in high sec, they're going to have green safety, and that's that. They're an alpha character. Two, I think that tutorial systems and, maybe one out from the tutorial system should be a sort of a safe haven for brand new players that want to come in and they want to experience, they want to do a mission, they want to do, the tutorials. They shouldn't have to, deal with ganking and that sort of thing, your first day, as you undock, it gets silly.
So this isn't like issues like Concord response time, how much the tank holds, or whether or not ganking should be permitted at all. This is like sanding the rough edges type changes.
Yeah, so, like ganking in specific. So I think there's a couple of things that you can do about that. So one, I would love security status to matter more, right? When you're -1 or even at 1 or -3. I think your ability to dock in NPC stations in high sec, that should be on the table, right? So when you have a lower security status, maybe you can't dock in 1.0 anymore, and 0.9 and 0.8. Now, they can still buy a Citadel, right, and put a Citadel up there, and but there's something that they can attack, right? There's something that they can get, revenge on, right? So the worse your security status is, you just can't dock, right? And, eventually you just can't even dock at all in any NPC station in high spec. And then 2 would be like, why can't, a player hire Concord to just sit next to him for X amount of ISK, right? Now, Concord's not going to do anything un-Concord-like, but it would be very similar to if I owned a bar and I hired off-duty police officers to sit at my door. Yeah. So maybe it's 10 million or something per Concord, and you want 5 of them, that's 50 million or whatever. They just zoom to you and they sit there. Now, you can already do this, right? You can have an alt shoot your hauler and Concord will zoom to you. But, right. It could be part of the lore and it could be part of the experience, right?
Yeah, it doesn't even need to be Concord. You could hire Diamond Rats, right? Like
Love it.
There's tiers there's tiers you could go with on that. Apparently that moved the peg with a lot of people in our chat, I gotta say. But something about that. There was something else about that I thought about before the mining rats thing, or like hiring the. What was your point right before the hiring the security team?
Security status, right? Like
right.
That,
okay. Yeah.
Could mean so much more. Yeah.
I want to dig into that because the issue that I've always seen with security status is like everybody's always agreed that that security status doesn't do what it's supposed to do. But in a world in which you can make another character and triple so now that we have alphas, that it seems to be such a hard design issue that the developers don't want to pick it up because it's like, yeah, you can work on it, but it's a Sisyphean task, right? All you're going to do is get a better bad solution. And so I personally believe that that's more the reason why we haven't seen iteration on that before, because it's like you still haven't solved the issue of like, well, standings doesn't matter if they can just make a new alt and inject it and, plex it and then keep on going. Do you feel like this is still worth it with that in mind?
Well, I don't want to eliminate ganking, right? Like, I don't want to do that. But what I want to do is just level it out a little bit, right? And, I've talked to the code guys about this, right? And what do they feel, and I pitched them my ideas about, you can only dock in citadels and that sort of thing, and security status would matter more. Now, there's still counterplay to that, right? They can still buy tags, and they can still fix their security status. But, like, you're the lore guy, right? So I would say, how does someone murder 35,000 people or whatever it is on, a destroyer, cruiser, and Concord chases them around and they just dock up and now, oh, okay. Oh, well, you docked up. Now you've just fooled everyone. So I don't see how they can go and just murder like that, dock up. And then when they undock, oh, yeah, okay, no, you're all good now. Wait, what? Like, let me add this as well.
Issues.
Yeah, and let me say this as well. If you and I were cops in New York City, right, and we get a map of where all the crime is happening, where are we going to go, right? We're going to go to where all the damn crime is happening, right? So why can't there be Concord, at Udema, right? If they're seeing, a gank every 10 minutes, like, Concord should be there. Like, don't they want to stop the crime, or at least get revenge or whatever? But, it would be interesting to see a dynamic, around the same sort of dynamic, around PVE in nullsec, right? The bounty modifier, the more ships that
Right.
are killed, right, it goes up, right? So that could be Concord response, right? The Concord response gets faster the more that's killed. Not on the first one, but they learn, and there could be some interesting things around that, around, hey, these are the most crime-ridden areas, just to make people think a little bit more, the ganking side. Maybe they have to pay a little bit more. Maybe they have to jump through a few more hoops, something like that. Not. I don't want to, remove it.
So, I mean, like, obviously, the argument about like dynamic security status has been, this is not a new concept, but you do bring up a really good point, which is that between like the dynamic bounty system and say the invasion system that proved that CCP can add a modifier to the security status, the effective security status of a given system. And sure, there were like some not, it could probably use more iteration before that was like a foundational mechanic in which HiSec was based off of. But like, it's almost like capsule and the clone, man. Like, it feels like these two pieces are just ready to allow us to do this thing that we've always wanted. Excellent point.
That's it, man. Existing mechanics, brother. Welcome to UX.
I am running low on time, so I want to ask you this. This is great ideas, but again, going back to, it's very easy to pigeonhole and hold RonUSMC as the nullsec guy. You're a nullsec guy. You're in a nullsec block candidate. Why should a HiSec candidate vote for a nullsec block candidate? Why do you have anything to say about HiSec at all? I don't think we've covered that part.
It's a good point, man. Like, my main sort of focus on the CSM, the ganking thing is like a side thing, but my main primary focus is on content deniers, people that religiously camp a specific gate for years and stop everything from coming through. Most of the pipes from HiSec to LowSec are camped, right? And if you look at the kill boards, right, they don't lose anything because they don't fight. All they're there to do is to kill. That's it. And they stop people from coming through. A lot of the old school people, just like I was, a year and a half ago, before I started like hearing the pleas, right, from new players, that, new players have trouble enough, making enough ISK to get to LowSec, and then they're killed first jump, second jump. And then, the faction warfare guys, oh, dude, faction warfare is dead. So faction warfare might be dead, but the gate campers have killed 110 people today, right?
Right.
New bros and executioners. Like, it is so ridiculous that these people are the blockade of content for the entire game, right? I think that's silly. Like, there has to be some things that can be done around that, right? Scrams on gates. Maybe I loved one the other day I heard, which was like a 90% reduction in scan res on a gate. Things like this, of just people killing new bros and killing, unequipped players, you could say, over and over and over again for that 1 in 100 chance that they get the Plex tank or whatever. I think it's silly, and we should do something about it.
All right. And I'm at about the 10-minute warning period, I'm pretty sure. But I want to talk about that a little bit because, when I first started playing, when did you start playing?
2010, when we started.
Okay,
Dreaded.
great. Yeah. That's right. So you actually were one of the people that founded. You were one of the first people when Dreaded was founded. You were in it, basically, is what it boils down to,
yep,
right?
That's it, brother.
All right. So, and I was in Dreaded during World War B too, but that was because I called Dreaded the militia of the war. Sorry, World War B1. I called Dreaded the militia of the war, and I still stand by the fact that that was correct. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, but back then, I remember like any time in the last 10 years that like a UI, UX, or whatever improvement was put in, there's been an outspoken portion of the population that have spoken against it. that there was this kind of fetishization of hard, complex, obtuse UI, and I believe partially because like experienced players were able to exploit those mistakes on inexperienced players, and therefore the concern is that if things were more obvious or prevented these kinds of basic mistakes, then people wouldn't make them, and these guys relied on those tactics to be effective because of this. One of the things that CCP said when they were talking about like the fitting UI now that adds the CPU and power grid was it's like people may still make this mistake, but at least now it's not our fault. You know, one example of this is as simple as when they made it so that you can see the number of commas in the money that you're putting in. People got upset because they felt that fat fingering based on not being able to count the number of zeros was like a part of the game. And I'm bringing that up as an example because
that's crazy.
I'm not wrong though, right? Like, I mean, like you might not remember that exact example, but I'm not wrong about the way that the player base felt about Eve and about it being hard and about the UI. It was the player base didn't want a good UI. They wanted a clunky UI and they were proud of it. It was like their I don't know, Stockholm syndrome.
They're wrong, dude. Like they're wrong, plain and simple.
Right.
The UI is not should not be used in the game as a tool, a weapon, right? Like that's ridiculous, you know?
Exactly. And while I believe that a lot of that mentality is maybe fallen away, I still find myself arguing to people that it's like, I want to fight informed players making, decisions. I want mistakes to be because they made a mistake, not because, they just didn't know. Because the problem is that what ends up happening is players get paralyzed by the fact that what they know is that they will be punished, and severely so, for anything that they don't know. But there's no indication about what they don't know. Like they don't even know what they don't know. And so This lends to paralysis, and worse, just believing that the game is not fun or interesting, or just like giving up on that path. And the issue is that the people that end up giving up in this case are the people who would be the most dedicated, the most dug in. These are the people that are like, I want to master this. And when they find no good path to mastery, give up. We need to save those people.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a difference between, so the UI can be complex, and I would define the UI for the game as an expert interface, but it's as an expert interface, its status and, the sort of notifications are for an expert, right? Like, what is happening, right? And another, kind of relating back to the point that we just talked about, right? So when I'm, doing a route on a map, why can't I see where people have literally been gate camping for 3 years? Right? Does that not exist in this universe? Like, you can't say, hey, man, by the way, there's 10 dudes that have been camping here for 2.5 years and they're going to kill you as soon as you come in, right? Like a big red sign or, something to let you know, right? Like, cars nowadays can tell you when there's ice ahead. Like, you can't see when people have been dying in droves.
In a game that is allegedly all about like the choices that we make and how it shapes history and like the living history of the universe, there sure seems to be certain pretty glaring holes when it comes to like, sure, you can look in the map, the current state of the game, the thing, but like, here's a good idea. Jita Trade Hub is called Jita Trade Hub, but if you're not in Jita, why would you know that? And even if you look it up, it's actually called Caldari Navy, whatever place. So depending on how you look it up, it's still not called Jita Trade Hub. So that, one of the most foundational things in the game, I would be terrified to think of any new bro that was successful without somehow accidentally stumbling upon Jita in some way. And there's no breadcrumb to that. That could be a problem. At least exactly. WoW sends you to Ogrimmar.
Yeah, exactly. Like, one of the things, one of the kind of great things about, like UX or whatever, is that ability to show stats, to show things in a visual manner that allows for a faster consumption, right? Like I can show you 4 lines of text, right? And it'll take you X amount of seconds to consume that, right? I
Right.
can show you a graph and it'll take a fraction of the time for you to understand exactly what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So one of the things, people like to talk about, like Eve is such a complex game. In game design, you have depth versus complexity. Depth is like the possibility space. Complexity is the number of things that a player needs to know in their head in order to make good decisions. In this sense, I think that actually the complexity of Eve is actually way too high. There's too many hidden features. There's too many things that you need to know already that is not obvious in order to make good decisions, and that actually locks people out of the depth sometimes.
Yeah, and and you could even I agree, and I could even go on the other side and say that there's too much information, right? Why should I, for free, be able to see how many times the goons have jumped gates, right, in their system, right? Like, why is that? Like, I get that for free.
Right. Cut out again?
Drop a probe, or something, and to gain that intel that you get from ESI for free nowadays. I think a lot of that could be masked and make us work for it.
I think a lot of people would agree that the ESI implementation, at least the visibility of ESI information, is a bit odd, all things considered. But
but it's cool though, man. It's cool. Like they've accomplished so much, man.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying the fact that you can see like the details from anywhere at the same time. But either way, we are running low on time. So have I missed anything? Do you got anything else?
Don't even get me started on asset safety, station camping, kick out stations. Don't get me started.
Okay.
Unbelievable. Like I think there's a lot of things that are very risk averse that do not give players even a halfway chance, right? Of even competing, right? Like I don't think that the counter should be to have 100-man fleet with you. I don't think that the counter should be joining a nullsec group, right? Like there should be a lot of different options that people can make, and let them make them.
I agree. I really agree. I'm a strong believer that nullsec, while I understand that design leads towards nullsec in that way, that doesn't mean nullsec is the end game, and that there are players playing at tippy top levels in all aspects and in every space in every subsection of this game.
Yep.
I do have a question from the audience. The diplomatic shuttle, there have been a lot of people, especially I've been advocating this for a while, and some people are interested, and I know that it didn't come from me, but the diplomatic shuttle be making you basically immune to security status or something like that. Thus, so you have a tool to be able to go turn in your tags for sec or whatever. Is that the kind of feature that you would advocate for?
Oh, dude, that's I love it. That's a really cool idea. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that kind of thing.
All right. Well, I mean, if that covers it for you, the good news is that if people are interested more in what you have to say, you have plenty of streams and content for them to check out.
Yes, that's true, by the way.
And assuming you do it respectfully and not in a community mortifying way, I'm sure that people will be able to levy their concerns or criticisms and get some answers.
All day, every day, open for business, baby.
All right. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. As you are one of the people that would be a controversial figure, as it were. But I think it was really good, and I think it's really cool of you to come on and talk to me. It's always a good time to talk to you. You're a good dude, in my opinion. We're both military vets and whatnot, so
Yeah, man.
But beyond all that, I think that you're definitely one of the people when I got when you announced your CSM candidacy. My response was, yeah, that makes sense. Yep. And so I think that anybody who does feel that they that are interested in your content, do believe in what you do, and do believe that the as I like to say, making EVE into a learnable game, you are a candidate to put towards the top of the list, if for no other reason than to stick it to the haters, right? Did I lose you again? All right. Hold on. Let me check. What happened? Oh, hey, if he rage quits when I compliment him, then I don't know what to do. Ron, you there?
What? No, I'm right here.
Oh yeah, you didn't respond. I don't know if you were just.
I was on the other system.
Not planned.
That's actually so funny, though. No, if that shows you anything, they said, "Will I rage quit if I get called meanie names?" Like, I don't know if you guys realize how much rage talking about gate camping brings up, right? And I get, it's like the standard Imperium kind of hate, and then you get the gate camp hate. But I don't care. Like I do, and I say, and I want to do what's right, not what's good for me or good for. I just want to do what's right. I'm a crusader at heart. That's all I do. I'm a white knight for everybody.
Yeah, and before we wrap up, I want to kind of circle back on that point just one last time because I think it's important to contextualize this. So the problem with Tama is the fact that it is the closest low-sec entry point from Jita. And therefore, a lot of people like buy their stuff in Jita and go straight to Tama, and then they lose it. Or if they're going to lose their stuff in Jita, or sorry, in low-sec, there's a reason why they tend to end up in Tama as opposed to Old Man Star, one of these other famous choke points. The issue with that is that it subtly ends up getting in the way of other solutions to getting to good PvP. What I personally find is that players don't think and don't teach to each other, Tama's dangerous. Here's how to get around it. They teach the only way to do PvP is to jump into Tama and get butchered. And if you don't like it, then this isn't the game for you. And if that's the message we're playing, horrible, man. Then that's why we have a 3% retention rate. So your argument is that if people are allowed to just get into low sec and have it not last 10 seconds or less, then maybe it'll actually come to something.
Exactly. Like, like little random groups of noob bros and stuff out, 5 or 6 guys in low sec. You just don't see that anymore because they're all dead, right?
Yep. And to that end, just like 2 days ago, I was helping a new bro out, and with me and another experienced player scouting it out, we got one of the 2 of them frigates through the gate camp without getting killed. And so while that was super exciting for him, if he didn't have 2 experienced players with him, it wouldn't have ended up that way.
Just if you wanted to look at data, look at the data from the last the tour event. How many people did the first stop in the tour, and how many people did the last? Right? I did that. It was like 72 jumps, and I think I hit 19 gate camps or something like that. 17 gate camps. I did it all on stream. Right? Whew. Like it's constant gate camps, constant smart bombs. Like it's just silly.
Yeah, and just to double back because people are questioning it, I mentioned the 3% retention. So back in like 2015, 2016, they were pretty open about how horrible EVE retention was. And again, this goes back to like how hard EVE is, and therefore how much better EVE players are than those who quit EVE. But in the last year or two, we've seen a much stronger drive towards like, let's make sure that people are quitting the game because EVE isn't right for them, not because the UI is clunky and we just, are using excuses to make ourselves feel good about ourselves, or like better yet, listening to the survivorship bias and all that kind of stuff. There's some pretty cool speeches by Hilmar and whatnot on the subject. If you go,
yeah, and Hilmar just talked about that when he did that fan fest around, right? Like 2 years ago, was it?
Yeah, that's what I saw. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. During the Invasion World Tour, the fan fest.
And those are people that have installed the game, right? And they played the game and still leave. Like, if you want to quit the game because you're a fan of Wizards or whatever hell crap is out there, cool. We don't want you anyway. But don't quit the game because of the other players in your first 30 or 60 days. That's silly.
Yep. And they used to say, if a person quits EVE and joins WoW, then the average IQ of both populations go up.
And I used to believe that, man, but
I'm just kidding. I was just kidding.
I used to believe that, but I think today's player base, man, is very min-maxed on the pushing people away model. And I don't even know, but I'm sure we've lost a lot of really good players to different games because they get harassed.
That's true, but honestly, I think that if I've seen anything in the last 2 years, it's that we can bring them back. If things are done well, players are very quick to come back when they see that whatever it is that was bothering them has been fixed. So let's hope that CCP continues to improve things and bring those players back. And I think that you would make a very good addition to the CSM in ensuring that is successful for the next year. So good luck, dude.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it, buddy.
I hope to see you on the CSM, and I look forward to continuing to see you stream and checking out your stuff either way, because I know that you're going to be a solid member of the community, and I do thank you for that either way. And I actually appreciate your willingness to, above everything else, also say, I want to commit to a year of being a volunteer slave for CCP so good on you, man.
Yeah, can you believe that we go through all this just to be a volunteer? It's crazy, right? All right, man. Hey, have a good night. Hey, everybody in chat, have a good night.
07, man. Thanks.